Episode 45 of the Habs Culture Podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Bertaggia. I'm alongside Justin Schwartz. I should be saying episode 45 part 2 because this episode was actually recorded about 2 weeks ago. But that's in our archives because no one else is going to see that because we had to scrap it, unfortunately, due to audio issues. So we're going to have to redo this one. It's 2 weeks later, so a lot has actually changed, believe it or not, within that 2 weeks. Because it was prior to training camp. It was during the rookie camp or the rookie tournament, excuse me. So yeah, we're going to get into a bunch of things. And honestly, it doesn't sound like it's been a while because we actually recorded that episode, but it's been a while since we've actually published an episode. So it's good to be back. I'm sure, we hope that those are listening are happy to hear our voices again. It's a new hockey season. And yeah, we're excited to talk about the Habs again.
It's October's quickly approaching, Mark. We're what?
Yeah.
September 30th today. Wow, time is flying.
Practically
September
is
30th.
October.
There you go. So, I mean, hockey's legitimately right around the corner, and we're excited. We're excited to be back on a semi-consistent basis, trying to be a weekly basis. So we're excited to talk some hockey and deliver you guys the content you guys have been enjoying for the past year and a bit.
Yeah, so since we haven't covered the biggest news that have come out of Montreal Canadiens land in recent history is the newest captain of the Montreal Canadiens. I believe he's the 31st captain. He is the youngest captain ever named, and he goes by the name of Nick Suzuki. Something we were kind of expecting, right? I think it was kind of out there, but there's obviously the name Brendan Gallagher. Joel Edmondson's name was out there, and then they got the 2 A's, newest captain. So you got a C on a jersey, an RBC patch on a jersey. We'll start with the C.
I'm ecstatic about the news. I think that it was the right choice, and I think for those that may look to other avenues, whether the guys you named, right, the Gallagher, the Edmondson, in my opinion, I think that one of the biggest reasons in my mind for choosing a guy like Suzuki was because you have a young guy who's being named captain, but a lot of the guys on this team moving forward are kind of in that same age range, right? So you're kind of getting a group of guys led by a guy that is similar in age to everyone else, and they're going to be able to move as one. Whereas, naming a guy like Gallagher or Edmondson, who are a little bit more up there in age, might not be around when the team is in full throttle and in their prime, you could say. So I think that it was the right move. I think that you get a guy with a couple 2 or 3 years of experience under his belt, who's now going to be able to, work off that experience and use that to his advantage to be the captain of the most storied franchise in the National Hockey League.
I think they knew Nick Suzuki was going to be the captain of this team. It was just a question of when was it going to happen. And it just clearly wasn't worth waiting 2 years and having like a bridge sort of captain until they would give it to Suzuki. And ultimately, I think it's the right choice. Give it to him now. If he's ready, he's ready. It sounds like he's ready. His teammates think he's ready. So it's cool to see that C on Suzuki's jersey. Especially from if you look back at that Pacioretty deal, you're trading a captain for a future captain. Which, if you're acquiring a captain in a trade, I think it's a pretty good deal at the end of the day. So
absolutely,
I'm happy for Nick. It looks good. Speaking of looking good, or not looking good.
Or not looking good at all, for that matter.
Yeah. RBC has won the bid to have their logo on one of the nicest jerseys in the league, an original 6 jersey that has never been altered prior. Well, now it has been, with a bright blue and yellow logo that doesn't match anything on that jersey. Look, we'll get into this. I don't mind sponsorships on jerseys. I think this league is heading in a direction where they need money, and money is an object in every league right now. So in sports, that's what it is. Marketing is marketing all over the boards, on the ice. We've lost Stanley Cup playoffs and finals patches on the ice. Now it's sponsorships behind the net. So it's getting there. The helmets. So we knew it was coming, and I don't mind it. But what bothers me is the fact that the organization doesn't make an effort to make sure that logo is altered and looks and matches their colors, their colorway. If you look at Washington, they have a betting company, I forget which one it is, and it's just white because it matches the red, right? And and even the Toronto Maple Leafs for that matter. It's a horrible choice. It says milk, but it's all white. What if it said milk and orange? Then you're like, wait, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. And look, yeah,
Like
I
I
don't.
understand that RBC, that's their colors, that's their logo, and they obviously paid the big bucks to make sure that it was those colors because everyone looks at that logo. It's the first thing you look at.
Right.
But if I'm the Canadians and any other original six team, you gotta look at this and say, look, we're altering an original six jersey here. Let's try and make it as subtle as possible. And the Leafs, yeah, it's subtle. It says milk, but it's subtle. Like it's just there. And like that's fine. But to have a bright blue patch with a yellow, I don't even know what that thing is. It's like, come on, it's the first thing you look at.
Yeah, it's a little bit too obvious in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting
and it's
at.
big. If it was like a word,
Right.
you know what I mean? Then it would have been smaller. Like,
yeah, no, it's. I think it's a big W for RBC.
Oh, huge.
A big L for Montreal.
Huge.
And it's unfortunate because, again, like you mentioned on countless occasions right there, it's you're altering an original six jersey, an original six logo. And when you look at the jersey face on, right? Like when they posted the picture for Nick Suzuki being announced captain, and like your eyes are not looking at that C, your eyes are looking at that logo.
I thought it was an RBC commercial or an ad.
Well, that's it. And you know what? It's a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit aggravating, I guess you could say, for the avid fans. But what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I'm sure that there was a lot of money that was put into that deal, and I guess you take it and run. I guess it must have been lucrative enough, right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of money only for the red sweater though, because the away white jersey does not have a sponsor as of now. It will, I'm sure, because they're going to do it, but it doesn't have one right now. So hopefully it's not something
blue.
Crazy.
Like, imagine it being blue. Like they just slap the RBC blue logo on the white jersey. That's even worse.
It's bad too. But like again, look at I mentioned this on the episode that got cut out. But Detroit, original six plain shirt. Like that's a super, super plain. It looks super clean. Their arena is the Little Caesars Arena. And usually most teams just use the arena sponsor and they get the jersey sponsor, whatever. Like Pittsburgh, for example. What if they were to put Little Caesars on the Detroit Red Wings jersey? Like I don't know if they haven't. I don't know if they have announced a sponsor. I haven't seen it yet. But like
yeah, no, I don't get it. I don't get
nothing against their pizza. I'm just saying it's an orange logo.
Right. So just right off the bat, the colors just don't work.
Yeah, unless if they put it all white, if they alter the logos or the colors, sorry, then yeah, sure, put whatever you want, but change the colors.
Right. I agree.
Anyways, that's out of the way.
Enough logo talk.
Enough logo and
enough sponsorship talk.
Yeah, enough talking about RBC and giving them even more marketing opportunities. Sean Monahan is a Montreal Canadian. We didn't talk about that. The deal was for future considerations. It was a cap dump for Calgary, so they can sign Nazem Kadri. The Canadians get a veteran at center who is trying to regain his steps in the National Hockey League after a few bad injuries. And it's cool because I think it's going to be a guy who, steps into the lineup and helps out the younger centermen. And there's a lot of them now that we're actually in full training camp mode. And you look at those centermen that are in the pipeline. It's good to have guys like this around. And I think with him and Dvorak, it'll be very important to have them around Doc. That's the biggest one I look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think the move made sense all around. Made sense. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it a little bit later as we get into lines and lineups and looking at which players slot in, which players slot out. But it does beg the question to look at what happens at the end of the year or what happens come trade deadline, which players are in, which players are out. And look, I think that all around it makes a lot of sense for Montreal, a team that's non-competitive, that can take on some salary and gain some assets like a conditional first round pick, barring the other conditions that may apply. But it does look at a lot of other players that may or may not get a chance because of the fact that certain players older veterans that are trying to prove themselves before the deadline are getting that chance. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think all around, looking at that Monahan deal, it did make sense.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Yeah, we're not gonna get into those conditions. Like, no
Um,
way. That'll take the whole episode if we do that. That was
it's like
crazy.
reading. It's like reading the terms and conditions on an app. It just never happens.
Yeah, or when you do a software update on your phone,
Well, there you go. You just
like,
click
who reads
next,
that?
accept, and next.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Primo, I don't think we spoke about that. Primo got signed to his deal.
Right.
I don't know if you have that on you. The
I
the
don't,
money,
but if I'm not mistaken, it was
eight $890.
$890,000 a
Okay,
year.
it's that
I'll
ballpark
double
for
check.
sure.
Yeah.
And it was a one-way deal, but of course he can still go to Laval because of some condition that he didn't play enough games. I forget what it is, but he can still go to Laval. So don't freak out that it's a one-way deal, because he will be, in my opinion, going to Laval, especially after the few games that just happened. But yeah, and I think he can use it. We spoke about Primo way too many times. I think he needs to. This is his year. He gotta take the next step. And if it's in Laval, sure, take the next step in Laval. But then, come next season or whenever that may be in a few months, make sure you're taking strides in the National Hockey League, because there's so much time you could have. There's so many shots you could have year in and year out. You're drafting every year, so there's always going to be new people coming in. So for Primo, the clock is somewhat ticking. It's not ticking just yet, but it's somewhat ticking. Excuse me.
100%, I would agree. And you know what? Especially for a goalie, right? We've seen this. We've seen this drill before with a guy like Zachary Fucali, and I'm not comparing the situation. I'm just comparing a highly touted, I guess you can say, quote unquote prospect who, he was drafted in the 7th round out of I'm missing Northeastern. Out of
Northeastern,
Northeastern in
yeah.
the 7th round, he proved himself. But now it's time to take, like you said, that next step and prove it at the NHL level. And sooner rather than later, right? He's 23 years old. He signed his contract through 2024, 2025. So he becomes an RFA again in the 2025, 2026 season. But again, like you said, the clock is ticking, and he does have to show up in the next few years to be able to solidify that spot, especially with a potential vacancy without Carey Price being in net any longer.
Well, that's the thing. You're not just trying to replace a goalie. You're trying to replace arguably the best one that ever put on this jersey. So you got to look, like, Ken Hughes has got to be looking around and saying, is he that guy? Because he's going to be the first general manager to replace his goalie. Like, let's look at this, that he's not going to play anymore, Carey Price, because it's looking like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're replacing Carey Price. And yes, everyone's going to say, yay, finally, $10 million, $10.5 million off the cap. That's also a Carey Price off the cap. That's a Carey Price out of your lineup, a guy who a few years back, if you score 2 goals, you win the hockey game. So how are you going to regain? Because we could have all the forwards in the world and all the defensemen that are good at moving the puck. But if you got a guy in net who can't stop a puck, you're going to be looking like the Edmonton Oilers sooner rather than later. So if they can assess sooner rather than later if Primo is that guy, it's better, because then you're looking in the future and saying, do we have to use one of our first rounders to get a goalie? Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know if you're against using a first rounder for a goalie. I think if you have a few, or maybe like one, or like if you have 2 and there's a guy there that you really think can be that guy, I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a huge difference between like a Jake Ottinger, who's selected in the first round, or like a Jack Campbell.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? So like, I think if the opportunity is there, you use it, but then we got to see with Primo. So I think that's going to come in the next, I say, 2 seasons.
Right. And just to go back to what you said before, you were talking about, it's a $10.5 million contract off the cap, but it's also a Carey Price that's off the cap. And let's not, or off the roster, but let's not forget that, for the past 10 years, we have not had to worry about drafting a goalie, let alone in the first round. Right. So I think that we have to keep that in mind and consider the fact that if some of these goalies don't pan out, right, like a Primo, like a Jacob Dobes, then the next step, the next move, right, because you can have a great roster. You can have a great roster, a good, solid, constructed roster by Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon. But if they don't address, I guess you could say, the problem in net at some point or another in the next few seasons, your team can very much fall apart come round 1, right? because you don't have that solid goaltending. There was a reason that Montreal was successful when they were in the playoffs, and a big part of that was Carey Price. So if that goaltending position is not assessed properly, then who knows where this team could end up, right? So
It's so
that's the way I
important.
see it.
We took it for granted that we had that
that's
guy
it.
in nets. Like, it was taken for granted. Obviously, they couldn't take advantage of him being in nets, but
Unfortunately.
that's a different story. The Habs had their annual golf tournament. It felt like it's been a while since they had that due to COVID, but they had it. Not everyone showed up due to a bunch of different reasons, but it looked cool. Everyone seemed happy. Jeb Gordon spoke, Ken Hughes spoke, St. Louis spoke, everyone spoke. But yeah, it's exciting to see what's going to happen moving forward, because it's a season where you got guys like Joel Edmondson saying, look, we're going to make a playoff push here because we're competitors. But then you look at their roster and you're like, well, half of you are getting dealt at the deadline, like changes are going to happen at that deadline. And whether or not they're competitive, like if you look at, let's say, Justin, the Canadians are third in the Atlantic 1 week ahead of the trade deadline. And like they're pushing for second, like they're there.
Okay.
But you had in mind at the start of the season that by the trade deadline, I'm blowing up this roster to get as many assets as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stick with that plan? Or do you say, you know what, these guys deserved a run to attempt a playoff run?
Here's why I say that you ditch the plan and stay true to the season that you're having. The reason I say that is because a lot of the guys that you plan on moving become UFAs at the end of the season anyway, right? You look at a guy like Mike Hoffman's on 2 years left, so that's a different story. But a guy like Sean Monahan, right? 1 year left. Dadonov, 1 year left. Drouin, UFA at the end of the season, right? So these are guys that you would potentially want to be moving. Now, if you can make a playoff push with them, great. And if you lose in the second round, or you lose in the first round for that matter, they're gone after the season anyway. Now, it is interesting, right? Because you don't necessarily gain the assets that you would have liked to start the season. But if you're there and present, you're not going to just, you can't just ditch that plan, right?
For me, there's 2 words. It's Connor Bedard. Like,
right, but
you know what I mean? Like, if there's a time to have a bad hockey team, it's now.
Well, okay, yes, I 100% agree with you, but the thing is that you're saying, they're second in the Atlantic or third in the Atlantic, pushing for second, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're what? Okay, so I know you didn't, give a hypothetical saying at what point in the season.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a few games before trade deadline.
Oh, I said you're a week
before trade deadline. So you're telling me you just sell it all?
I try to get as many assets as possible.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, because I do think that realistically you're looking at this draft class and it is so incredibly strong in the top 5, right? Any pick that you're going to get there, you're going to be happy with. But I just, it's weird because third in the Atlantic pushing for second is very, you're in it. You're in it.
I look at the Thomas Tatar trade speculation a few years back when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. And at the deadline, there was a decision because the Habs were, third in the North Division, or they were bouncing around in the North Division. And it was, do we trade Thomas Tatar to like a team like the Colorado Avalanche who are ready to take a run at the Cup? Or do we push through and try and secure that playoff spot? And they kept him. They pushed through, but he played 1 playoff game or 2.
Right.
And that could have been a first-round pick. Right? So you kind of look back, and if I'm at the deadline and this team miraculously, like Jake Allen goes crazy and all these players are carrying each other on their back, and you're at a point where you're a week from the deadline and someone gives you a call and say, well, what's the price on Dadonov, because we're willing to pay to have a guy like that for the playoffs. I'm not going to say, I want to try and push through.
No, I think I agree with that. And I think that, look, I was looking at it from a standpoint where, it's almost too good to be true, right? You're
it's not going to happen.
You know what, though? You never know, right? A lot of these teams somehow band together and put up, and again, you have a lot of guys on this team that I wouldn't say have something to prove, but Well, yeah, I would say something to prove, right? A bunch of guys on 1 year left on their deal that want to prove something to gain another contract in this league, and I think that they're going to do everything in their power to do so. So I mean, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if Dadonov puts up 25 goals or Monahan puts up 65 points, right? So again, we don't know those. I'm just shooting numbers out here, but
Yeah, yeah.
what if, and if that does come to fruition, then all of a sudden you're in a position where, oh, now, okay, fourth in the Atlantic, even, right? Pushing for third. It's still in that playoff territory.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I do agree with you ultimately.
Um, yeah, it's tough. I just this
But
year, you just, in my opinion, you got to get a top 5 pick. You have to.
let's be
Um,
real. I mean, it's just I don't think it will happen.
yeah, yeah. I don't think they're going to be pushing. I think it's going to be a nice fire sale at the deadline. Get a bunch of assets,
But I
and
actually have a question for you, if you don't mind.
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna shoot this back in your direction, because you look at this team, right? And now we have a lot of guys like I mentioned before, the Hoffmans, the Monahans, I'll, you know what, I'll leave Drouin aside, but the Dadonov, even the Dvorak, but Dvorak I'll put in the same category as Drouin here. We have a lot of these
He still
guys
has
that
term though, no? Does he still have term?
Dvorak, yes, correct, he does have
Yeah.
term. But the reason I
Okay.
say put in the category is just because I think that compared to the Monahan, the Dadonov, the Hoffman, I feel like they're a little bit of a step up in terms of value on your roster. Like, they bring a little bit more to the table. Like, I think
Okay.
Dvorak is a little bit more, in my opinion, Dvorak is more valuable to the Montreal Canadiens than Monahan is going
Oh,
forward.
100%.
Okay,
100%.
so
100%.
that's just kind of like how I'm
Yeah.
comparing it. But my question to
Yeah.
you is that, you say it like this. You're saying, look, if they're in a position fourth or third in the Atlantic Division and are pushing for a playoff spot, and it's because a lot of these guys are, maybe you can say, overperforming, but does that not make you rethink the approach to the start of the season, where a guy like Kent Hughes or Jeff Gordon or the management as a whole should maybe, take this crop of 4 or 5 players and maybe say, look, it might be worth it to get rid of these guys. And I know that the reason that they're on their roster to begin with is to get assets before the deadline. But would it be worth it to have younger guys who are out there to prove something on your roster? Because realistically, younger players are not going to really, give you that boost in a season. But a guy like Monahan, again, he's proven himself in the past. Dadonov's proven himself in the past. So would you rather have these guys that are just out there to have fun and prove themselves and get better and develop, versus guys that are out there to prove themselves and actually maybe take this team and give them a boost to the point where they're somewhat in a potential playoff spot?
Oh, I'd rather have the Monahans on the ice.
Yeah, but would you rather, so you're saying you'd rather have the Monahans on the ice in terms of competing, or in terms of just blowing up the season as a whole?
In my opinion, when I look at acquiring Dadonov, Monahan, I don't know if there's someone else in there. The goal in mind is to acquire assets from their deal and then acquire more assets by moving them later on.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So my follow-up question here, or not
Mhm.
question or comment, is, do you think the Montreal Canadiens have too many of those players?
No, you can never have too many of those players.
But see, that's where I maybe disagree a little bit, is because a guy like Monahan and Dadonov and Drouin, again, on a contract year, and
Mhm.
Hoffman, who has 2 years left and maybe wants to, continue to put up points in the NHL. What if all of a sudden these guys are pooling together to combine for X amount of goals, X amount of assists, and again, like you said, all of a sudden you're third in the Atlantic. That's something that you really, really,
Yeah.
really want to avoid.
Oh, you want to avoid that? Oh, okay. I know what you mean, because you don't want to win.
Because you don't, well, that's it, right? You have a lot of these
Okay.
players that want to prove themselves, but in order
Yeah, I know
for
what
them
you
to
mean.
prove themselves, they're going to have to be somewhat decent.
Yeah.
You can't have 425 goal scorers on your team and not be somewhat competitive.
No, okay. I know what you mean. I know what you
You know
mean.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, last year
I
we had such a small pool of players on our teams that actually contributed to, like, Suzuki had 60 points. Caulfield finished the season on a very good note, but the rest of the team was very mediocre in terms of point scoring. But now
I,
all of a sudden we have all these guys that have the potential to do so.
yeah, I don't think Sean Monahan has the potential to score 20. Like, he's still like he hasn't played
Right.
a full NHL season in how long now? So I think he's gonna be like a better Eric Stahl, who's just there, scores and does the right things every now and then.
Right.
Dadonov, he's the one where I look at it and I say, okay, like, he can be the quickest 20 goals in and out. You come to Montreal, you get out for a nice draft pick. Drouin, I don't look as like a type of, he's not a rental for a team in my opinion. Like, if we're looking at Monahan and Dadonov, those are rentals. Those are pure rentals that are going to go to a Stanley Cup contender and leave.
Absolutely.
Drew, I think, first of all, if you're gonna flip him, if that's the decision that's made, I think it's gonna be to a team that wants him for a playoff run and more, right? Um, Look, I could be completely wrong on this.
No,
They could flip him and then he just goes to a team and then leaves. Or he could look. Who knows? He could sign an extension here. Do I see it? I don't know. We have to see how the season plays out.
Mhm.
But the thing with Jonathan Drouin is that a lot of faith and a lot of optimism was held by a prior management group.
Right.
Everyone that had faith in him and that was ready to put their jobs on the line no longer has a job. So I look at Jonathan Drouin as a guy who was the next out of the door that wasn't part of this mentality. And, you know, they always say, like, when a new GM comes in, he wants a new coach. He also wants his own players. Like, he wants his coach
Right.
and his players. Bergevin made it clear that after a few years, he got his players. Like, he got them. He traded Subban, he traded Pacioretty, he got his players. And for me, Drouin's the one that's a Bergevin player, but Bergevin is no longer there.
I get where you're going with this.
So, like, look, again, he can go out there and play amazing, but he does. When Ken Hughes says what he wants in a player, I don't see Jonathan Drouin as that guy.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So I might have avoided your question a bit, just going off a bit on a bit of a Drouin rant here.
No, but you hit. I think that you're right, because I think that myself, I think I might be looking at this in a light where Monahan, I might be a little bit too optimistic for certain players to the point where it might where my hypothetical might actually come true. But I think if we temper expectations here and if we're realistic, Monahan and Dadonov are not. Look, Dadonov could put up 25, and that's great, but I don't think we have enough players that would make a difference, right?
Especially if Dadonov's playing with a guy like Gallagher, I just don't see him scoring 25.
Absolutely.
Like, he's got to be on that number one line, that number one power play, and he's got to be on the ice for 21 minutes a night.
Which is not just unrealistic.
Which is not going to happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, he's here to get assets, but he can't come here to get in the way of others, you know?
Especially the development of younger players, right? So
exactly. Let's get in to the rookies, because this is very exciting, because 2 weeks ago when we actually recorded this, our views on certain rookies was completely different than they are now because they actually played games. We'll start with, I guess, the elephant in the room. The first overall pick, Juraj Slafkovsky, who, under the words of Kent Hughes, has been underwhelming.
So I'm going to chime in here quick. I just, before we get into this, I wanted to just say that we also talked about last time is that I actually was able to attend the pre-camp, like the small rookie development
Buffalo
camp. The reason that I think that it's important to add this in is because I got to see a few rookies, younger players play in that smaller tournament. And now you're getting to see them play in preseason hockey. So it's a lot has changed, right, since the last time we recorded.
Yeah.
But now to go back, so there were players that, stood out to me, and I wrote them down, like the Owen Becks, the Kaden Goulies, the Arbor Jackeyes, the Massars, the Touringis, the Trudeaus, whatever. The one guy that didn't, there you go. The one guy that didn't stand out to me, and we spoke about this, was the Slafkovsky, the Juraj Slafkovsky. And I'm not gonna go out here and say that like we'll discuss this, but we talked about this before preseason started. Now he's got 2 preseason games under his belt, and he's underperformed. He's been a little bit underwhelming. Now, again, we are far from people that overreact to, small sample sizes. But now what? What's the next step? What do we do? Or I say we, it's not up to us. What do they do now with the number 1 overall pick going into this season?
Sorry, I said Richard, but Richard, he played well in training camp. He's not a rookie. Sorry. But
oh no, you're good.
Anyways.
Yeah, I know which number 90.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyways, Slafkovsky. If there's one thing that you look at Juraj Slafkovsky and you say, like, there's one thing that's evident, it's that he wants the puck. He wants it. But look, people have to be patient with the fact that he's a winger. So he's not always going to have the puck on that stick, right? He's going to be skating up and down the ice, up and down, gets the puck, shot here and there. He's not going to be like when you're drafting an Austin Matthews, a centerman, a Connor McDavid, who gets up into the National Hockey League. They always have the puck. They always have it. Obviously, I'm not comparing Slafkovsky to Austin Matthews, but
right, because that's just not a style of play.
Yeah, but a centerman always has the puck constantly. at the same time, he looks a bit lost. He looks a bit. It's not his system. It's not his same. The ice is smaller. Again, I don't like using that excuse too much. I don't love it, but it is. It's a fact.
But I don't think it's an excuse, Mark, at this point, because I think if we
Exactly.
look at it, what he's played actually a legitimate 4 games, 2 preseason, and maybe 2 pre-camp games on a smaller ice. That's 4 games total, where his whole career he's played in Europe. His whole career.
Yeah. Maybe Europe it's bigger.
That's what I'm saying. So here it's smaller.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to make is that, like, 4 games, that's not enough.
Oh yeah, no. No, that's why, like, but I don't like using that excuse, because then there's players like Mazar who's done the exact same thing, and he comes here and he's flying. You know what I mean?
But I think that we can both agree that Mazar's game versus Slavkovsky's game is very, very different.
Oh, very different.
Right.
But, look, there's obviously the expectation where it's the first overall pick. You want to see him go out there and absolutely dominate, especially in the rookie camp. Like, especially there, because it's all rookies. In preseason, okay, he's allowed to have those flashes of, he's an 18-year-old kid who just doesn't seem like he's in his place, and that's fine. He said after the first game that for the game against Toronto, he wanted to be more like in there, more on the puck, and make more of an impact. And he didn't. He had a worse game. So that's where you kind of look back and you say, look, it's easy to say stuff, and then it's easy to say stuff, but you got to do it. And look, obviously now Montreal, Canadiens hockey, Twitter is blowing up where they made the wrong choice. We shouldn't have even traded for Dak. We should have drafted Nazar. Everyone's freaking out. I don't know if you like. I went today on Twitter and everyone's freaking out. But let's relax here. I think he's still a very good hockey player. But moving forward, what I thought maybe 2-3 weeks ago is different than what I think now for where he would start this season. Because you look at a guy like Mazar, and you look at a guy and some of the players like Kidney, and they're the same age. They were drafted in the same year, but they just seem like they're in that element, and they're there. And everyone's path is different when it comes to development, right? We know that. So how are the Canadiens going to find and make sure that the peak of Juraj Slavkovsky is at the peak of the Montreal Canadiens, and like they properly time that and make sure it doesn't get ruined? Right. I think he starts in Laval.
And personally, I don't see a problem with that. Truthfully, I really don't. And look, the one thing that through the few games that I've watched him play, and look, I'm no scout, but I pay very close attention. And the one thing that I've noticed is that his pace of play has been very poor. By pace of play, I mean, whether it's skating up positioning based on the speed of the game. And I find that that's been very poor. But then again, we can't expect very much from a guy. And look, again, you don't like bringing up the excuse, but it is a different game altogether when you're going from Europe to North American ice. So I think that, again, we have to temper our expectations a little bit. And I think that he's very, very skilled. The hands are there. The skill, the vision is there. The weight, the height is there. So I think it's just about polishing these things, about, taking that next level where his game could adjust to a more NHL level ready hockey player. And that's fine if he spends some time in Laval. Now, do I think that he should start the season in the NHL? Probably not. I think that people would overreact to the 10 games.
Yeah, and honestly, first of all, I think if he does the 10 games and plays very poorly, then it's going to have an effect for the next time he gets called up, like kind of like Primo, who probably, you know what I mean, who had a lot of bad experiences in the NHL because he was forced into the net. But when it comes to Slavkovsky, and everyone's going to say, around the league, you just drafted a first overall pick who's playing in Laval in the AHL. A lot of these players that were drafted first overall in recent times, and I think this is Pierre LeBrun who brought it up, or Darren Dreger, they weren't eligible for the AHL. They were eligible for either CHL or National Hockey League.
Because of age, correct?
And because of their rights.
Right.
Like, if you look at a guy like, let's take, who was drafted first overall in recent times.
You want to take Erasmus Dahlin, or is that too far?
No, because he came from Europe.
Right.
But like a North American skate. Let's say Connor McDavid, for example. Let's say Connor McDavid. Okay, I'm just saying this, but let's say Connor McDavid had a slow training camp. What are the options? It's either National Hockey League or Erie Otters. Why were you going to send him to the Erie Otters?
Right.
You're gonna keep him here, and you want to take care of him. He's your first overall pick. But having the possibility to send him to Laval, it's still you taking care of him. It's your organization. You're still keeping a close eye on him. So you get to take care of where he's playing on the power play, what he's doing, all that. So they have the opportunity to do that. So it's not really a bad option. You're not saying him completely elsewhere. Look at Austin Matthews. I think the case was also, it was Toronto. He wasn't going to go back to Zurich. There was no other option. They couldn't send him to I don't think they were able to send him to the Marlies. Obviously, he came in the NHL and scored 4 goals in his first game. Generational talent. So you can't really compare. But for Slavkovsky, I don't think it's the end of the world. I do think he has to manage his weight on the ice. He's huge, he's heavy, but he's falling. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Kotkaniemi a bit at the beginning.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think you have to be patient with him. I think, look, Nathan McKinnon took him years. Took him a few years to get that groove. And I think I sent him back to Laval. You make him dominate over there and make him settle into this North American game. And you slowly incorporate him into your system and make him build up his way, a lot like Nick Suzuki did.
To me, there's no doubt in my mind. Well, you're like I 100% agree. And you know what? To feed off that, I brought this up on the episode that got cut out here, but I always, my favorite reference, again, not the same player, not even drafted nearly in the same stratosphere, but Tage Thompson, 6'7", 218 pounds. How long look? I know it's a smaller sample size. And I know that he did it for 1 year. He put up 68 points, 78 games, and it was his best season to date. He was drafted in 2016, first round, 26th overall by St. Louis. Now he's with Chicago. Now he's with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Slavkovsky is 238 pounds and 6'3" or 6'4". Correct me if I'm 6'4", right?
Yeah.
I understand that he was drafted first overall, but why does it mean that his best season, or he needs to come out of the gate flying and he needs to be per game, right? That's I think that from a hockey standpoint, take away the fact that we're Habs fans, from a hockey standpoint, we have to be realistic with ourselves and realize that not every single player that enters into this league is going to have an instant impact on the game. It's going to take them some time to, first of all, he's already the 5th heaviest player in the NHL. He's technically not in the NHL yet, but he would be the fifth heaviest player in the NHL. So right there, then and there, you're looking at a player who has to adjust and get used to playing at such a heavy weight and such a tall guy, right? So it's not easy. So for people to expect that he's going to come out of the gate flying, put up points on the board, it's unrealistic. So if it takes him 2-3 years, people are not going to be happy, but they'll be happy with the end result when he starts actually contributing, right?
It's the same people at the draft that were saying, make sure, I hope the Canadians draft a guy that is not going to be the best next year, but the best in 5 years, are the same people that are right now saying, well, we should have drafted right.
Because he's going to have more of an instant impact right away, right? Like,
exactly.
See,
you know what I mean?
Players take different paths. We've seen it many times, and some players take a lot longer to develop, right? Nathan McKinnon had a great rookie season, had a sophomore slump. People freaked out, and then slowly he got back into the groove and became one of the better players in the NHL. Now, am I comparing his situation to Slavkovsky? No, but I'm comparing the fact that players take different paths, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Riley Kidney looks amazing. Everyone knows that. I think if you watch the Habs, you could see him right away. He got sent back to the OHL last night.
I think it was to the Q, if I'm not mistaken.
Kidney? He plays
Kidney
for the Q?
and he plays for Bathurst, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, but I'll double check. But yeah.
Who's the other one? Hua?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Oh, he got sent back to. It's true. We were having that debate on the episode that got cut out. Was it going to be Laval for Hua or the Q for Hua? And I guess they made that decision easy for us today.
Yeah, we don't have to debate it. But yeah, so sorry to cut you off, but it is Bathurst. So
Bathurst
there. Last year he put up 100 points in 66 games. So now he's going back for his 4th season there. Only 19 years old. Only 19 years old. So
crazy.
We'll see.
Owen Beck. Did they make a decision on him yet?
Not
yet. It was only them 2 yesterday, right?
Only them 2, yeah. And I know that there was a bunch of cuts today that were made. So I think Jan Misak.
Misak was sent back to the O?
he was sent back note to Laval for a tryout in
Oh, it's
Laval.
true. He's done. He's done in the O.
Yeah, done. Yeah, so
Okay.
he'll probably solidify a spot there. I'd have to check the other names, but yeah.
Hold on. Am I confusing Beck with Kidney? Yeah, I think I'm confusing Beck with Kidney.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
From the rookie tournament.
So you're okay. Yes, you are, because you said Riley Kidney looks amazing, right?
Yeah, sorry. I meant to say Owen Beck.
I mean, Riley Kidney does not look poor
No,
either.
sorry. Yeah.
But it's,
No,
but
it was
it
Owen
is
Beck.
Owen Beck.
Yeah, okay, sorry, because Owen Beck was the one drafted this year. That's what I meant to
Yeah.
say. Sorry.
No, you're
Owen
good.
Beck looks amazing.
Yes.
And that's going to be a very tough look. I don't think it's going to be a very tough decision. I think they're going to send him back.
But I think we can both agree that there is a world where he does get a 10-day contract with the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to get into that to say maybe give ourselves 3 players that are going to get that 10-game contract, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But yeah, Owen Beck to me, and I've mentioned this before, it's kind of like, when you're like Owen Beck was drafted this year, Kidney was drafted last year. So when you're looking at potential trades or other options, Beck has now made Kidney movable.
Right.
Even though Kidney, again, you can't give up because another guy's performing better than you. Because Kidney's still playing well, but Beck is playing on a different level, right?
Right.
Beck looks really like he skates well. He has good hands. At the Red versus White, he looked good. Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
So that's going to be one of those situations. Again, down the center, they look good in that area. And look, we're looking at all these. I was talking to one of my buddies, and we're like looking at all these rookies. And it's the first time where I'm watching a Canadiens preseason game, and it's not one guy I want to see. In previous years, it's like, oh my god, I want to see the 3rd overall pick, Kotkaniemi. I want to go watch him, and everyone's watching.
Or even the Sergachev. Like, I remember that was.
Or the Sergachev, exactly.
Yeah.
Now there's Kidney,
names
there's
on
Beck,
names.
there's Gooley, there's Jacky, there's Harris, there's all these guys, there's Slavkovsky, Mazar, Heineman, and just to think that there's more coming. Like, there's still a guy like Sean Farrell, who once he's done with the NCAA is going to absolutely tear up this training camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I'm looking at these players, and it was yesterday that I don't know if you listened to the press conference of the player development team. So they had Francis Bouillon, Marie-Philippe Poulin. I'm sorry, I forget the other ones.
Right.
And there was also, what's his name? The guy who goes on the ice with them, Nick. Is it Nick? Hold on, let me find that. Anyways,
sure.
But one of the development people talking about the fact that you have to take your chance here because there's more people coming. And I think this is the first time in a long time where the Montreal Canadiens, you look at their pipeline and there are more people coming. Like, just look at a guy like I know he's a solidified NHL player, but if I'm Jake Evans and I'm watching Owen Beck, you got to be worried.
You're shaking a little bit.
You know what I mean? And then if I'm Riley Kidney, I'm looking at Owen Beck and going, wait, how did this happen? I was that guy a few months ago. And just every year there's going to be those new people. And it's cool. It's cool to see. Obviously.
And I have a question for you, because we keep talking about this guy gets surpassed by this guy, and on a year-to-year basis it changes. But does that scare you a little bit that it might be too many prospects or too many upcoming guys that no?
Internal competition is the best competition.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If you have guys pushing each other to get to that spot, and everyone's going to try and be at their best level every weekend, let me just find names before we move on, because now it's bothering me, because it was honestly fascinating. Okay, so player development, Rob Ramage is the head. So he was the guy that was mentioning, there's new people coming in every time. Bouillon, Marie-Philippe Poulin. Okay, Adam Nicholas. It's Adam, his name. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak, this guy. He's he is amazing.
Really?
Like, after this episode, try and find on Twitter the press conference he had yesterday. He covers hockey development, but he brings in so many aspects. Just listening to this guy, and anyone who's listening to us right now, you have to listen to Adam Nicholas speak. Like, I heard this guy, I was listening to talk yesterday, It's I've never seen anything like it, and for him to be a part of our organization is honestly something special. Like
Really, I'm definitely
his
gonna have to check that
development,
out.
no, like it was amazing. The stuff that he looks into on just a single player, like he studies every single player on this Canadians team individually before he works with them on the ice. So like,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just I feel like the Canadians are in good hands. I don't know. I was listening to him talk yesterday, and I was like, "Geez, this is very cool. It's something we've never seen before." But anyways,
Right.
moving forward, um, it feels good to have all these rookies. And now we'll move on to the defensemen because we talked a bit about the forwards.
Hmm.
You watched Jack Eye at the tournament in Buffalo. You watched Harris. You watched Barron.
Yeah.
Those are the big three, except for Gooley, because Gooley to me is a National Hockey League player. I don't even put him in that category of bubble roster play. He's there. He's
Yeah.
that
No, I
guy.
agree with that. I agree
He's
with
that
that.
guy. So out of those
So
three,
out of those three, I don't even think it's actually close. I don't think it's close. And for me, it's Arbor Jacki, the best player
okay,
out of those three.
okay,
I don't. I think that, look, a little bit unpolished. There's no doubt about that. There's still pieces to his game that he could potentially add to, to be more of an NHL ready player. But he has all the basics, the fundamentals
mm-hmm.
to be that guy. Now, it's not to say that Harris and Barron are not there, but Jacki is really special. I think you call that a diamond in the rough. And look, the way that he plays such a physical game, but he also there's offensive upside, right? He's being placed on the first power play unit. He's moving the puck. His vision is great. His moves at the blue line are very smooth. There's no hesitation in his game. Look,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna make the odd mistake, but his recovery time is very, very impressive. In the corners, no one wants to step foot in the corner with a big boy Arbor Jacki. There's no
Yeah,
way. So I think that all the intimidation factor to his game, coupled with the offensive potential that he might bring to the table, is absolutely incredible. And I think that that's what sets him apart from a guy like Harris or Barron, and not giving them a hard time, just more elevating a guy like Jacki.
yeah. There's obviously things to improve on, and I want to see Jack Eye against real. Like I want to see him go up against Mitch Marner because you saw yesterday or whenever their
Well,
game
Mitch
was.
Marner's playing defense, so I don't know what you're talking about.
um, his gap was okay. It wasn't amazing like against certain players, and I think he was still adjusting to the NHL speed. Right, it's a huge jump from what he
Yeah.
was playing and to now. Like having a guy like Nylander come at you. Imagine him going up against McDavid. There's obviously going to be things to adjust. But yeah, I agree. Jack Eye has taken that. Look, 10 or 2 weeks ago, I'm telling you right now, it was Justin Barron's job to lose, and he lost it.
He did. And
Where
not only did sorry to cut you off, but not only did he lose it to Arbor Jacki, he also lost it to Jordan Harris.
yeah, we're a few games into the preseason, we're a few games in the training camp. He lost it already.
Yeah.
Jordan Harris looks really good, looks comfortable.
He does. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't seem like he's gonna get a spot on opening night.
You know, I might see him getting a spot on opening night.
Okay.
I
See, for
see him.
me, yeah, go ahead.
The decision is for me: do you play him on the first pair on the left in Laval, or does he make the roster on the right? Because I think he can make the roster on the right. It's just if you look at his development, would it be better off to just send them on that first pair with Barron and Laval, or if he? Because now it's coming down to the wire between Jack Eye and Harris, in my opinion, with these next few games. And if Harris has that little edge over him, I think he can slot into that right spot. But yeah, and look, we'll see what happens. Because I think they're both left shot, right? Jack Eye and Harris.
Jacki is left shot, yeah.
Yeah. So, and obviously Gooley's left shot, correct?
Gooley's left shot, yeah.
So we're kind of looking at who's going to be in that rotation with Wideman. Is it Jack Eye or Harris? And it could be both. It could be a bouncing effect, every time they switch it around. But I think, in my opinion, they're both going to get those 10. I think Barron's going to get, obviously, until the end of training camp, but they're both going to get that 10 game or 9 game trial, and it's going to go from there. But it's interesting because I don't know.
It is interesting.
They both look really good.
it's fun to see, and especially a guy like Jack. Look, you root for the guy that goes
Yeah,
undrafted
his style's
and
amazing too.
starts. Oh, well, not only his style off the ice, but his style on the ice is also like
Yeah,
he's like we talked about last time. Like he's a mix of like an Emelin type physicality with like a Sherratt potent. Like, look, we're like Sherratt's offensive upside is not incredible, but you know what I'm saying? Like that type
yeah,
of like involved,
yeah.
like he's still involved and he can still make plays. Now, like I think Arbor Jack's offensive potential is higher than Sherratt's. I think we can both agree
Yeah,
on that. But the
yeah.
fact that he brings that physicality on defense and it's also really fun to watch. So look, I'm not going to be biased and say that he is I'm not saying that he's a better player than Barron. I'm not saying that he's a better player than Harris. I just think that his style and I think what he's bringing to the table in the pre-tournament and in preseason might merit that spot or a 10-day contract at least for opening night.
The Canadians need Barron to find his game, though. Like we
I
could talk
agree, but
about
I
all
think
we
that we should
want.
be patient though.
Yeah, we should be patient, but he's that right shot. He is the right shot, and the fact that he's losing his spot to left shots is somewhat concerning. And it's not that he's like playing bad. He doesn't look involved. He's not out there, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
But you know what? Look, okay, he's 20 years old, and I'm not saying that you're not giving him that. I'm just adding on to the fact that like, look, he's 20 years old, and a right shot defenseman in this league is hard to come by to begin with. So I think that like the development process might be a little bit longer. And again, like we talked about with Slavkovsky, that's okay. That's okay.
mhm.
And look, he was drafted by Colorado. He makes his way over to Montreal. He played a few games with us last season and end the season. Look, a year or 3/4 of a season in Laval might do him very, very, very good. And we've seen
Yeah,
that with other prospects in our prospect pool, especially on defense, right? A guy like Norlinder has taken actually the opposite route, unfortunately, and he might be more of a project.
yeah. I feel bad, man. It's
Yeah,
not. I
me
feel
too.
bad. Sorry. It sucks because I looked at Norlander as the guy 2 years ago. Obviously, all these guys the other guys came in, but he was like, I think COVID ruined him. Like the fact that he was bouncing around league. I think he played in 4 leagues last year. Like that's horrendous.
Yeah,
Like that's
he does
really
not.
bad.
I thought that maybe the preseason games he might turn it up a little bit. It's just again it's
There's no
again but
confidence.
but you know what? It's funny because we look at a guy like Norlander who hasn't played exceptionally well. There's no doubt about that. We can both agree on that. But add the fact that you have all these other guys, the Gooley, the Harris, the Jackeye, the whatever, let's leave out Barron in this case, who are just playing so well that it just overshadows Norlander's play. So
Yeah.
it's the fact that he's not playing well, but it's the fact that these other guys are playing so exceptional that you start taking a guy like Norlander and putting him in the back seat. So it's interesting. But there is some internal competition, which you just mentioned is the best type of competition, or is very beneficial for an organization, especially this Montreal Canadiens organization.
And on Caden Gooley, I think we'll keep it simple. We love Caden Gooley. He's
He,
just amazing.
he's
He's amazing.
electrifying.
He's
His
amazing.
skating ability is also so
It's
so
Eric
aggressive.
Carlson, Shea Weber. He skates
Yeah,
so well. He's big. He has that
physical.
presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
It's and honestly, okay, so we didn't actually get to talk about this, and now we're gonna shy away from the rookies for a second, but let's talk about Kirby Doc for a second here.
oh
Because
yeah, we didn't talk
we
about
actually
Kirby.
so last episode, the one that got cut out, we did talk about the contract, but we didn't talk about it this time, and
Okay.
we haven't but let's talk about him because he's got some preseason action now under his belt. He signed for 4 years, I'm trying to get this right without looking. 3.3625. Pretty
Is
sure.
it that? I don't know. I have no idea. I was gonna say 3.4.
No, I looked it up before, but yeah.
Okay.
So 3.3625.
Okay.
People were a little bit not upset, but people were like, how are you giving him this much money when he hasn't proven anything in the NHL? But
Yeah.
we could both agree that you pay someone for what they're going to do, not what they have done in the past,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We've seen that. That's the direction that the NHL has gone in. And I just wanted to point out the reason that I was saying so strong on the puck is because every time I watch these preseason games that Kirby Doc's involved in, and he gets into the corner and the puck is on his stick, that he can't get knocked off the puck.
He looks good. I'm just gonna say
I
flat
like
out.
that.
He looks good. He looks quick. He's physical.
And he's a
very
smart
well
and
with
he's
the
a
puck.
smart hockey player too.
I honestly I was expecting to watch a better skating Kotkaniemi at first. You know, a guy who's still getting used to because I didn't watch a lot of the Blackhawks games last season. I didn't watch. but he looks good. He looks
Yeah.
really good, and people were saying, he's a bit weak along the boards. He looked fine.
Yeah, no, to me, I even saw a play yesterday where the puck was behind the net. He picks it up. He protected it so well with his body, and he came out of the corner, made the pass to the point, right? Like those are the little things that go unnoticed because he might not be putting up a point or two a game in the preseason, but it's the little things, right, that you want to see out of a young 21-year-old. But I was impressed. Truthfully, I was impressed.
The
with
eye
that.
test, he passed.
Yeah,
He passed the eye test, 100%.
Check that box.
And for the first viewing of the Zibanejad project, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. This is Jeff Gordon's project. 100% it is. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that this is his project.
Let's see it come to fruition. And along the same note, or on the same vein here, again, there's no doubt that we can both agree that Cole Caulfield's an exceptional player. But the confidence this guy is playing with, like he looks like when the puck is on his stick, he owns the puck. Don't touch it. It's his.
I think you should go to Laval.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too. Go send him. Go let him play with who
Anthony Richard.
And
I think he still needs more confidence. Yeah, he looked good with that A on his jersey too.
Yeah. No, but you know what? Okay, because last year there were points in times, more specifically through the first half of the season, right? Which we can both agree was just you gotta throw that out the window. But he looked scared to make plays. Like he looked scared when the puck was on his stick. Like he didn't want to mess up. Now it's like if the puck's on his stick and like he messes up, like you saw it. Like I don't know if you saw it last night, but he on the power play he turned the puck over. They went the other way. He made a nice defensive play on the back check and he goes down the other way and makes something happen. So it's just like. He's not scared to make the mistakes. He's scared. He's playing with a different level of confidence. And to add on to that, he put on a little bit of weight this offseason. In good weight.
Yeah,
so
muscle.
I think going into I don't know why I called it good weight, but muscle. So going into those corners, there's again an added level of confidence, not to play scared, not to go up against some of these bigger guys because he's got a very nice base, a very sturdy base. So again,
we have our guy. He's our guy. We've been begging for an elite player and. We have it, but we're not really when you beg for something and then you finally get it and you kind of just push it aside.
Well, yeah, because it's not because you thought about it for so long that now it's just an afterthought, right?
Exactly.
But I want to ask you a question now. Well, look, I'm bringing this up just because it's a point of reference here, but sorry, Caulfield's over under on goals this season is 30.5.
So, over.
Over, you're smashing the over?
Over. Yeah, 100%.
I think so too.
Yeah, 100%.
But we'll ask the viewers. I'm curious to see what they have to say because you could see a world where he hits a 28 mark.
I think he finishes with 34 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 34 goals and how many points? Around. Doesn't have to be adding the assists. Just curious. How many points do you think he puts up? Ballpark. Is like 65 to 70.
I was going to say 65.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. 65 to 70
I think
points.
It's fair.
That's very fair.
I think if you're scoring 34 goals, you should be in the 60s,
Right, because you'll add on,
like,
I think, 30 assists, right? Give or take.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you see Arpan Basu's tweet about the kid? Talking about Jack-Eye?
No. Which one?
Okay, so...
Well, maybe I did, but I don't...
So he's explaining a situation with the kid, and he says... So this kid just asked me, this 11-year-old kid just asked me, who's number 72? And I said, Arbor Jack-Eye, spelt or pronounced Jack-Eye. And the kid said, so you're just saying it backwards.
Oh, wow.
How has no one thought of this?
Wait, hold on.
Look at Arbor Jack-Eye's name.
Yeah, because it's hold on. I have it written down here. So it's XHE.
K-A-J.
K-A-J.
Yeah.
Jack.
So backwards, Jack.
I. Like Jack A, but like Jack I.
Jack A, but Jack I, yeah.
That is so strange.
This kid's going to Harvard.
You think that's how his name is actually pronounced, or you think that's how he wants it pronounced?
No,
do you know?
I have no idea. What do we used to call him? I used to call him something else. Arbor
or like Eggs Jack or something like
no, it wasn't.
Or Ekaj or something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
but something that was not.
Zekaj, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Zekaj, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that was just I found that funny. We're reaching the oh my god, already at the hour mark. So we'll wrap it up on. What do you want to wrap it up on?
I want to. You know what? I think this could
Please
be a
not the
cool
lines.
segment that we,
Please.
No
not the lines.
lines.
Okay.
But I think this could be. We can do this segment going forward, and let me know what you think. I'm gonna fire 3 rapid questions at you. You have to just give me what, like, off the top of your head, your answer. Off the top.
Okay. So the next episode, I fire them at you.
Sure, we'll do that.
Okay.
But I was just thinking about it because I have a few things written down here, and I think that if first thing that comes to mind, no questions asked. I'm not even gonna judge. Okay. First question.
Nervous.
Gouli, Jack-Eye, Harris. Which two make the team?
Gouli, Harris.
Okay. Does Slafkovsky start in the NHL? Start in the AHL?
AHL.
And lastly, which of these? No, I'm not taking that one. Does Owen Beck get a 10-day contract with the Montreal Canadiens?
Like, does he get the 10 game, like the 9 game?
Yeah, the 9 game.
Owen Beck? Yes.
Owen Beck. Yes.
Actually, no. I replaced that. You know who does? You know who does? Bold take right here. You know who gets 9 games with the Montreal Canadiens? Emil Heineman.
Ooh, we didn't talk about him.
Emil Heineman. I was going to mention, I completely forgot. I think he gets 9 games and he pushes it. And it's not 9 games. Like, it's because once you pass 9 games, the first year of your annual contract is burned. So that's what for the people that don't understand what we're talking about, that usually they give you 9 games and then they'll send you back to either your respective junior league or the AHL, so that first year of your NHL contract doesn't get burnt.
Mm-hmm.
Or usually it's OHL. Yeah, usually it's the junior league. Anyways, so that's what we mean by 9 games. So I truly think if there's one player I'd have to put my money on as a forward to even make the team,
you make it over Slafkovsky too.
Emil Heineman.
He's looked really, really good. I forgot. I should have talked about him because he also did look good in the pre-camp that I saw, and I was like, this guy and Owen Beck look tremendous.
I think Owen Beck's still gonna get 9 games. Like, I think they're gonna get. I think they're gonna want him to taste the NHL a lot, like Harris tasted it last year. Just a bit.
Okay.
Taste it, and just see how he looks out there. I don't think he's gonna make the team. 100%. I don't think he makes the team. Heineman, on the other hand, he looks like. You know what he looks like? He looks like Max Pacioretty.
I was gonna say. I talked about this with my friend, and that was the comparison that came to mind. Right? It's not a crazy fast skater, but a decent skater in terms of stride, insane shot, and a pretty good hockey mind.
He has a wire. His shot is incredible. Wire.
His shot is incredible.
But yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Okay, so just to go over my rapid questions because I think we're gonna post this.
Let's go over them.
So, D-man spots. You're taking Gouli, Jack-Eye in a pool of Gouli, Jack-Eye, Harris. You're taking Gouli, Harris or Gouli, Jack-Eye.
Gouli, Harris.
So you're taking Gouli, Harris. So you're leaving Jack-Eye out. Okay, not a fan of that one. Question 2.
I have Harris. I have Harris on the right. Starting on the right.
Right. Fair enough. Second question, Slav status, AHL, NHL. I almost said WHL. AHL, NHL. He's starting in the AHL for you.
WNBA. AHL.
WNBA. Okay. He's starting in the AHL. And question
American
3,
Hockey League.
Owen Beck, 9-day. You say yes, but
I say yes.
Your added on answer is that Heineman also gets that 9-day and makes the team.
And pushes to make the team.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. I think they'll give Beck a few. Just to say, why not? Maybe it's not going to be the home opener. Maybe they'll throw him in a game against Buffalo, just to see him. But who knows? Honestly, it depends on how the camp finishes. But as of right now, why not? It doesn't hurt. But yeah.
I like it.
I'm a Heineman fan. I like it. He better change his number, but I'm a Heineman fan.
I like the 51. It makes him look like it's like Pacioretty-esque. It's like
the 67. It's David Desharnais.
No, but you know what? To me, it's not because the body type is so different that it just suits. Like 67 is a weird number for a player to wear, and because Pacioretty wore it, it made sense. Now that he's wearing 51, it makes sense. Okay, so what do you want him to change the number to? You're gonna say in the 20s? You know what? I would give him. I don't know what he wore. Where do you wear? You know what I'd give him? I'd give him 65. That would look good on him.
That's horrible. It's a goalie number.
Good. Goalie number 65.
Yeah. Hyman. Let's see what number he's worn in the past. He's worn 15, 29, 9. So he can't wear any of those except 15. Hey, if he gets 15, I could change the name on the back of my jersey.
No, that looks terrible. That looks terrible.
Oh,
I'd
he's
rather
worn
see. I'm
13 with
telling you,
Sweden. 13. There we go. Emil Heineman, 13. No one's wearing 13.
no, he's got to wear
Some
like a
guys wearing
high
it in training
number.
camp.
I'm telling you, he's got to wear like 86 or something. Well, that's Kidney.
86
Well, I guess he's
Kidney.
not on the team. He's on the team, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does look good on Kidney though. Not gonna lie.
I agree.
Anyways, yeah, that's my. If there's one dark horse making the, okay, I'll ask. That's my dark horse making the Montreal Canadiens this year. My dark horse, Emil Heineman. Who's yours? It could be Slavkovsky.
It's not a dark horse though.
Oh,
I mean, well, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. Oh God, like dark horse, like that. That's in the. That's actually in the realm. It could be Beck.
It could be Beck. It could be Beck. Because you're still looking at an 18-year-old kid in Beck. That's a dark horse. If he makes the NHL, that's it's a cool cylinder.
Then I would think I would take Beck to make the team. That would be my dark horse pick. If I had to take another one, I would actually have Jack-Eye making the team as well.
Okay.
I think that I would put ahead of the Beck one. And I think that's even though there's more spots on the defensive side than there is on the offensive side, right? Like I think we can agree like there's more there's 3 spots for two rookies versus like basically no spots for anyone up top. So you have to really prove it. But I do think that Jack-Eye making the team would be like that. So
I'm guessing that you would have
Goalie, so I'd go
Jack-Eye.
Goalie Jack-Eye. Yeah, I'd go Goalie Jack-Eye.
And then you have Beck getting the 9-game
I'd
trial.
have Beck getting the 9-game, and I would say Slav AHL.
Okay, so
agreement with you,
except for the defense. Okay, that was fun. I like that segment.
But you know what we should do? We'll post it on Twitter or something, and we'll each give like our answers, and we'll see who agrees with who more.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, that was really fun. I'm happy. Hopefully the audio sounds good once it's all said and done. We filmed this audio and video, so this will be on YouTube in the coming days, depending on how long it takes to upload. So we thank you guys so much for tuning in. Check us out on all our social medias. We're back. We're happy to be back, and weeklies will be coming in. So we're happy you joined us. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Stay safe.